Wonderful to see all of you here this morning. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who substitute darkness for light and light for darkness, who substitute bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. It's a strange way to start a Mother's Day sermon, Dale. We'll get to that. Evil, however, I would like to talk about that, is no longer being hidden. Satan is working to influence any and all who will listen in the name of prosperity, of lust, of selfishness, of self-fulfillment. Evil is tearing at the very fabric of society, and people who are miserable are trying to make everyone else miserable right along with them. What is the target here? What is Satan trying to tear down? Well, as I look through my lenses and observe the world, he's working on the family. He's working on it really, really hard. From those who have been married for years, down to those who are yet to be of marriage age, and their view of marriage as they see it is being harmed. So he's hitting it on all facets. The family, you see, is the protector of society. Families raise children with strong, keep evil out so that children grow up in goodness. The family, you see, is the backbone of any society. The physical, mental, and emotional health of communities rests on the shoulders of how the family does. A family begins, offspring is generated, and from this and the bond of a father and mother ensure the health of these offspring who move on to hopefully create additional healthy family units. Society benefits from healthy families. On the flip side of that, society suffers from unhealthy families. Children brought up in dysfunctional homes with a negligent parent or unhealthy parents, raise children that could possibly overcome these. There's evidence of that. But who more often than not continue the same pattern of dysfunction. Higher crime rates, higher mental illness are exponentially greater in people who come from homes wherein the family is not strong and not healthy. And one of the best protectors of the family is the mother. Many in society want to destroy motherhood. They want to destroy what a good mother is. What makes a good mother? What example did you grow up with? Are you striving to be that example, to be a good mother? Well, today we are going to look at Proverbs chapter 30. And we're going to see the example that our ladies aspire to and that our young ladies should hope for themselves someday. God wants us to follow the patterns that He sets out in Scripture. And so we're going to look at the woman described in Proverbs 31 this morning. So think about it. What characteristics do you see in modern women? Those that you work with, those that are in your family, perhaps even yourself. What are the qualities that you aspire to? I hope that you'll see it this morning in chapter 31. Let's look at verse 10. It says this, "An excellent wife who can find? For her worth is far above jewels." Men, when we married our wives, we gave them a ring and it had a rare jewel in that to symbolize our love, to symbolize our union. Well, did you also know that in Proverbs chapter 31, she is being described as being rare and valuable? Which the counter to that would mean that there are women out there that do not have these rare, valuable, and good qualities. Some women cannot reach this high standard. They don't know about it. They don't know about it well enough to try. They didn't have examples themselves. You see, it takes a woman who is strong. It takes a woman who is determined to aspire to this level, which is why she is so rare. Verse 11. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. The woman in Proverbs chapter 31 is trustworthy. She doesn't lie. The husband doesn't have to worry about her having an affair. She has such high moral character that he trusts in her. But this passage also says that she contributes to the financial state of the home. And this can mean different things. This particular woman has an occupation outside the home that we'll get to in a moment. However, there are some ladies who contribute by being a stay-at-home mom, which is a very valuable resource indeed. But this passage simply says that the man gets something from her that he did not earn. In other words, he will have no lack of gain. What she gains, you see, what she earns, she shares with her family. There are some women in today's society who earn and want to keep it to themselves. But the Proverbs 31 woman says, I want to share it with my family. I want to share it with my community, for in that we are stronger. Verse 12. She does her husband good and not evil all the days of her life. In other words, she treats her husband well. This brought to my attention the contentious woman in Proverbs chapter 21. For you see, a contentious woman might be mad that her husband gave her a birthday card instead of a Mother's Day card. I did read it, I tell you. I did read it. It was in the Mother's Day section. The man on the front looked like me. It's a perfect card. Just turned out to be a birthday card, unfortunately. So no, Melita is not a contentious woman, and in fact, I have to have this disclaimer every year. I understand contentious women, not because I live with one, but because I witness it in my line of work as a counselor. There you go. I said it. Proverbs chapter 21 and verse 9, however, does warn against the contentious woman. It is better to live in a corner of a roof than in a house shared with a contentious woman. Proverbs 21:19. It is better to live in a desert land than with a contentious and vexing woman. This made me think of Tom Hanks in his movie Castaway. He did not have a contentious woman on the island with him. He had Wilson. Wilson was his buddy. Wilson would argue, but Wilson was encouraging. Here's what it might look like if a contentious woman was there. Why are you taking so long to get us off this island? It's your fault we're here. That fire isn't big enough. Why don't we have enough food to eat? This indeed is where a contentious woman would go. But Proverbs chapter 31 says she treats her husband well. Despite his shortcomings, despite his mistakes, with the forgiveness of Christ, she can look to him and help him be a better man. Verse 13. She looks for wool and flax and works with her hands in delight. In other words, she has talents. She has skills. And this particular woman makes clothing, which is pretty important. It's a very important job. She works with her hands and she does those things that benefit her husband, that benefit her children, that actually benefit the community at large. Because not everybody can do this. Not just anybody can do it, but the woman spoken of here perhaps had a mother, maybe a father, who knew how to work with these materials. Pass that on to His children. Look, your community is going to need you. They're going to need clothes. They're going to need shoes. They're going to need things. Your community, ladies, your community gentlemen, need you as well. Our talents and skills make us valuable. Now, don't get me wrong, you're valuable as a human, to be certain. But our talents and skills benefit one another as a community as well. Maybe it's not a talent like making clothing, but perhaps you are a kind individual. We need those. Maybe you're a giving individual. Maybe you're a nurse. But in some way, one way or another, you benefit your community. The Proverbs 31 woman benefits her community through her talents and her skills. Proverbs 31:14 and 15 says, she is like merchant ships. She brings her food from afar. She rises also while it is still night and gives food to her household and portions to her maidens. She provides food for her family, and it's not an easy job, especially in that particular day and age, but she does what she does in order to provide for her family, because we've got to eat. We've got to eat, we've got to have clothing. She also puts others before herself. She has maidens. She has people that work with her. And what is she doing? She's thinking about them as well. The counter to this might be a woman who does not provide, who has nothing to contribute. Maybe she's just selfish. Who knows? Who knows? But the woman in Proverbs 31 is an anchor in her community. She is a provider in her community, and she is a driving force to make her family better. Next, we read in verses 16 through 19, she considers a field and buys it. From her earnings, she plants a vineyard. This one is a particularly strong businesswoman. I myself wouldn't know what field to buy, wouldn't know what to do with particular earnings. This woman does. She's a smart businesswoman. She girds herself with strength and makes her arms strong. She's even physically strong. She senses that her gain is good. Her lamp does not go out at night. She feels a sense of pride for providing for her family through these various means. And she's a diligent worker, burning the midnight oil, we might say. She stretches out her hands to the distaff, and her hands grasp the spindle. This is a reference back to her working with wool. The staff and the spindle could be used individually, such as in this sort of motion, as you are stretching wool out and turning it into thread. We later put it on the spinning wheel. But here she's very resourceful, taking the wool, taking the flax, turning it into thread so that you can create. Women do. They create things out of nothing sometimes. And that's what she's doing here, to be a strong provider for her family and for her community. Verse 20. She extends her hand to the poor, and then she stretches out her hands to the needy. She's really getting stretched out herself at this point, isn't she? She's helping her family. She's being an aid in her community. She's, taking care of her husband, and now she's helping those who are in need. It's oftentimes our women who notice that, who see those who are in need, who see those who need help, and so they often will lead the charge on that when they see someone in need. But that's what she is seeing. She's not only seeing those closest to her, but those who are in need and helping them as well. Verse 21, she is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. So she is prepared. She is prepared for the changes in weather. She's prepared for snow in this case. Prepared for rain. Prepared for those metaphorical rainy or snowy days when the family needs something. She's ready. She's prepared. She's strong. And you know what else the verse says? They're clothed with scarlet. everybody looks good too because of the clothing that she's made. Very rare woman indeed. So as she's being stretched, though, being prepared, helping those out, we read this in verse 22. She makes coverings for herself. Her clothing is fine, linen and purple. So what does this tell us? It tells us she also takes care of herself. It's a mistake many women make, many people, but many women make, is that they care for others, but they'll oftentimes forget about self-care. And if you want to be the Proverbs 31 woman, you must take care of yourself. Our women, our Christian women today, take such good care of others that they often forget about themselves. Well, ladies, we need you to be healthy. We need you to be strong. So take care of yourself. And men, we've got to be knowledgeable and insightful enough to know when our spouses, when other ladies close to us in our lives, our family, to know and to tell them, hey, you've got to take care of yourself. Whenever that oxygen mask drops, ladies, you got to put it on yourself first, don't you? Your first inclination would be to help your children, give them what they need, help your husband if he needs it. But you've got to take care of yourself. And in doing so, you can be that woman that God admires and that people on this earth admire. Verse 23 is an interesting passage. Her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. So she's got her business that she is taking care of. The husband has. And here we see that her husband is known. But it's because of her. It's because of her character, because of what she has done. He's done something to be able to be at the gates, which in the Old Testament times was a very important place. It's where a lot of business transacted, it's where a lot of politicians would gather, people of high influence. So he's done something. But a good man is a good man. But a good man with a good wife can be a great man because of her strength in character. Many preachers are what they are because of their wives. What some lack in personality, their wife more than makes up for. Verses 24 through 27. Again, referencing her talents and her skills. Linen garments and sells them, and supplies belts to the tradesmen. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she smiles at the future. She opens her mouth in wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household, and does not eat the bread of idleness. She is known, verse 25, for her character. She is not known, we don't see here that she is known for what she wears or perhaps does not wear, but she is strong and dignified. And young ladies, I would instruct you to read up on what this woman looks like. Strength and dignity, that could be another whole chapter, another whole lesson for what that means for our modern women of today. But this woman has strength and dignity, and that is something that should not go out of style, but is something that all women and men today should possess, strength and dignity. And she smiles at the future. Why does she smile? Because she's prepared, because she's taking care of things, because she is strong. And when she speaks, what's it sound like? It's wise. And she's teaching kindness. She's telling others how to act and how to be. She's giving instruction to her children, giving instruction to those that she might have influence over. And what does that mean? It means she's teaching them wise things. She's teaching them kind things. Verse 27. She looks well to the ways of her household. In other words, she sees her household and feels a bit of pride because she's building something. She's raising children. She's She's not letting them raise themselves. She's raising them. She's growing them so that her son might be a good husband, so that her daughter might be a good wife, a good adult to contribute productively to society. She looks well to the ways of her household, and she feels good about what's going on. And the way you do that is you call things what they are. If there's evil in your house, you call it what it is so that you might look well on your household. Not afraid of how things are going to turn out, but praying to God that they will turn out well and that things will go well for your household. Because it's not about just those within your walls, but those that you send out to find spouses, to go out and to be productive members of society. I want us all to be able to look well on our households, and we do that by having strength and dignity, and by not being idle, by not being lazy. I don't know, maybe it's my age, the gray hair, but when I look around, I see a lot of idleness. And I wonder, how are they going to be when they grow up? How will our children be? How will those who are in the school systems today, how are they going to grow up? Are they going to continually eat the bread of idleness? Some want a gold medal because they're so idle these days. But the Proverbs 31 woman does not eat the bread of idleness. Verse 28, her children rise up and bless her, her husband also. And he praises her, saying, many daughters have done nobly, but you excel them all. Today of all days, tell your wife why you love and appreciate her. Do it again later, though. Don't just make it for today, even if it's not her birthday. But make it a regular occurrence that you tell your wife why you appreciate her. And be specific about those things. The Proverbs writer says in verse 30, charm is deceitful and beauty is vain. Most anybody can be charming, but can people actually have dignity? Can people actually have strength of character? In beauty, the physical side is all quite often about oneself, which is a selfish fact. But a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her the product of her hands, and let her works praise her in the gates. They know her by her reputation. You hear the name and you think great things about her. That is the woman of Proverbs chapter 31. And indeed, she is a rare thing, but also a very valuable thing. Does this characterize the modern woman? Some might scoff at this. But I look at it and I think this is a way to have everything. If women and men would model their wives after this. Women want things and the world tells them to be independent and take care of yourself. But what makes this woman so grand? And she is able to take care of herself, but also for those that she loves and cares about. So the question I would like to submit at this time is, what do you offer? Well, that's a sexist statement, Dale. Well, Proverbs speaks of a woman, but the qualities mentioned are good lessons for men and women. Is it sexist to have standards? I don't think so. Is it sexist to say that, for our young men to say, I want a woman who is high in character, who is diligent in her work ethic? I hope not. Our girls should have standards. Why is it wrong for a man to have any? I hope not. But girls, what kind of boyfriend do you want? What kind of a husband do you want? You've probably got him pictured in your head right now. Not Ryan Gosling, I hear he's taken, okay? But certainly physical attributes perhaps, mental, emotional, behavioral characteristics are very, very important. There's actually a book that I often endorse. It's called How Not to Marry a Jerk. Because a lot of people do that. A lot of ladies find someone that they think is the man of their dreams, and he only turns out to be a nightmare. But our girls need standards so that they might choose a husband that is worthy of their affections. If you don't have this pictured, then get it there. Otherwise, you might not like who you end up with. But also, though, pray that God will send you the man that you need. The man that will help you get to heaven. The man who will be a good father to your children and who will make you better because you have what's called a reciprocal relationship, a synergistic relationship. That's why God said the two shall become one. Not the two shall live separate lives in the same household, but that the two shall become one. It's the oldest institution on our planet. And we should feel privileged to take part in that. Some people mess it up. They mess it up real bad. For those who don't know me very much, I'm a marriage counselor. I see this on a regular basis. And I want our young ladies and our young men to make good choices about who they marry. Our young men should have standards, again, and he should look to Proverbs 31 for those standards. Because no man says, I want a woman who is difficult to please. No man says, I want a woman that requires an expensive lifestyle. No man should be saying that. But rather he should be saying, I want a woman who is loving, who is a hard worker, and who is respectful. For that's what we see in Proverbs chapter 31. To fulfill all of this in Proverbs chapter 31, it would take a lifetime. But the example is there for all of us to look to and aspire to. So too many people, though, get caught up in the argument that the world tries to make. What some people may have heard when I started talking about skills and talents, well, Dale, you're just wondering if she can cook. No, I can cook just fine. Many of our men here can cook just fine. What we all need from each other is loving individuals in our families. Hardworking individuals, those with strength and with dignity, so that we might raise up children who have strong and healthy families. All of us need more of Proverbs chapter 31 in our lives. If you're not a Christian, I hope that you will become one this morning. We can baptize you and you can be added to the body of Christ and start living a life that Proverbs 31 illustrates. If you are a Christian and have strayed away and are living in sin right now and you want prayers for strength and forgiveness, come forward and let us help you with that. Won't you come now as we stand and sing?